As DJ Khaled said, the Aerox 3 wireless from SteelSeries is another one. It's wireless, ambidextrous, and lightweight of a gaming mouse, so what makes it special and is it worth it? The grip is, as usual, the most quintessential part of any gaming mouse. It's an aggressively claw and fingertip grip style mouse, and it's so aggressive with its shape that even my hands don't feel quite right on it sometimes, because while I am a fingertip grip user, I'm a bit more laid back and I rest more of my hand towards the back of the mouse. I'll explain more of that in a bit. It's a rather small mouse, a noticeable amount shorter than the VIPER V2 Pro, which is my daily driver, but it also has a distinctively different shape, mainly in these hips. And as Shakira said, hips don't lie. The sides of the Aerox flare out wide towards the rear, similar to something like the Logitech G303, but a lot less intense. If the Logitech G303 was Nicki Minaj thick, this is more like Doja Cat thick. Still wide and noticeably so, but a lot less. Its shape is actually super reminiscent of the Rocket Burst Pro that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago, which is really interesting. These wide hips play a massive role in how you hold the mouse. It forces your thumb, your pinky, and your forefinger to arch more aggressively. Not in an uncomfortable way if you're used to it, but definitely not one that's better for more relaxed grips or smaller hands if your hands are too small for the size of this mouse. Despite using a fingertip grip myself, I found that my laid back position on the mouse in which I gripped it resulted in a rather uncomfortable grip overall, because the wide hips meant that my thumb, fourth, and pinky fingers were struggling to reach the comfort grooves on the side easily, with my palm resting more towards the rear because these wide hips were in the way, so I kind of had to go around them and stretch my fingers out a little bit more. If your fingertip grip is laid back in terms of your position in which you hold your mouse, more towards the rear, you will have some issues being really comfortable unless your hand is bigger than mine, and my hands aren't that small, they're quite sizable. Because of this, I found myself using a more forward-leaning, aggressive grip on this mouse. My palm position was a lot more forward-leaning and higher, which wasn't uncomfortable actually, it just wasn't my usual grip. And when it comes to choosing a gaming mouse, you generally want your mouse to fit your grip rather than changing your grip to fit the mouse. The arch of the palm support is low and quite gentle, which I prefer, and definitely does not protrude out and poke into your palm. There are grooves on the sides and clicks for comfort, and they are noticeably deep, which is nice, and they kind of guide your fingers into a more steep angle, as with most claw grip mice. The Aerox has a nice finish. It's matte, but it's quite rough and grippy, unlike the matte on the VIPER V2 Pro, but it does not have any sort of rubber grips or any sort of grip tape for that matter. It's a passable finish, could be worse, but definitely not bad. The weight is light at 66 grams of this mouse, though it has RGB, and honestly, there's this bit of plastic that you can see through the frame in the bottom of the mouse that's used for diffusing the RGB light, that honestly, if SteelSeries removed it, probably could have cut another 4 to 5 grams from this mouse. It's still really light though, and honestly shouldn't be a determining factor into whether you should or should not use this mouse. The thumb buttons have a sharp and light click, but the post travel is plenty and does give you a spongy bottom out. Though because the click is very early on in the actuation, you don't have to worry about pre-travel, and it feels pretty nice. And it also has a DPI button behind the scroll wheel, and the scroll wheel in my opinion is one of the most well-weighted ones I've ever used. It's got a very nice light click, but the scrolling is not too light that you will accidentally hit it. And also it's super recessed into the body, which I absolutely adore. Though I wish someone else would adore me like I adored recessed scroll wheels. The clicks are really good too, some of the lightest that I've ever felt, and they're super consistent throughout the whole click range, which I love. I absolutely love it, and it makes a lot of sense that it has very light clicks and very consistent clicks. It's definitely a priority for SteelSeries, especially with a shape like this, because with a shape like this, you're gonna have a lot of people holding the mouse like this, kind of clicking on the back of the clicks as well, so it needs to be consistent throughout the range. So no matter what grip you're using on this, the clicks will feel very nice. On the bottom, you get a very unique mouse feet layout, though it tracks really nicely on my QCK, which is no surprise because it's by SteelSeries. And you also find a sensor which is a nice 3370 sensor, which is definitely plenty of performance for basically anyone, so you shouldn't be deciding whether you should or should not get this mouse based on sensor choice. Now, there's a little trick here on the bottom as well, and you can see that from its power switch. It can go between off, 2.4 GHz mode, which is Wi-Fi connectivity to connect to its USB-C dongle, or Bluetooth mode. Yes, despite this being a hardcore gaming mouse for pros, it has Bluetooth connectivity, which actually gives it a lot of versatility because you can use it in a work setup with a MacBook, a tablet, or even a phone, though you'd be kind of insane to use a wireless mouse with a phone. But it does mean it now appeals to a much bigger audience because it has that Bluetooth functionality. On top of that, its Wi-Fi dongle is USB-C. Don't worry, it does come with an adapter for most people, because most people should be using USB Type-A for their mouse dongle, but USB-C is so convenient for use with something like a laptop or a MacBook for a portable setup. Obviously, no one's going to be using this mainly for work or portable setups, but hey, it's a convenient thing to have, and combined with its pretty healthy battery life, it is actually a decent choice for bringing out to do work if you don't just plan to have it stationary at home for gaming. So in conclusion then, is the Aerox Tree a good wireless mouse? Yes. Is it better than the VIPER V2 Pro? Well, that really depends on who you are. The Bluetooth versatility is super helpful in making the Aerox Tree a better choice, and for more aggressive grips, especially those that are like forward-leaning claw grips, it's definitely more comfortable to use than the Razer VIPER V2 Pro, in my opinion. The weight difference is really not big enough to be a massive differentiator, and it really all comes down at the end of the day as to whether this fits your grip and hand size better than the VIPER V2 Pro. If it does, then yes, it's going to be a better choice. If it doesn't, then well, get the VIPER V2 Pro instead. They are very competitively and similarly priced, though the V2 Pro has the advantage of being lighter and not having holes, though grip, shape, and hand size are definitely more important. Honestly, I have a great feeling that Overwatch and Quake players will probably prefer this to the VIPER V2 Pro. Why? Because, well, a lot of people keep telling me that the Rocket Burst Pro I reviewed is a very popular shape among Quake and Overwatch players, and this has a very similar design philosophy and shape to it, so it probably will appeal to that audience no problem. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. All of to you for watching to this point, and if you did watch to this point, comment Metal Series. So I know that you did watch this point. I can give you a heart and props and all that. And yeah, questions in the comments or in the Discord. I try to reply to every single thing. Bye.